All right, welcome back to Waste Some Time with Jason Green. I am Jason Green, bringing you brand new interviews right here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you click on the Patreon link, become a member, all those things. The interviews on this show that I find the most fun are bands where maybe they haven't done a million interviews, or maybe not everybody knows their story. So for some people today, Randy Jackson from Zebra is here. For some people, this is going to be exciting to see old friends, if you will. You're a fan of the band. You wanted to know what they've been up to, or you've been following them the whole time. And for other people, this will be maybe an introduction to a band that you've only heard a little bit about. I grew up in New York City. You couldn't grow up in New York and not know the legend of Zebra. For other people, maybe you knew them as Johnny Lawrence's favorite band on Cobra Kai. Either way, they're still together almost 50 years since forming the band, 40 years since the debut record. They're on the road right now performing that record in its entirety. All original members. If you watch this show, I'm not sure we ever have bands that have all original members. So I'm looking forward to talking to Randy Jackson right after this. Just wanna waste some time with you. Sometimes it seems too good to be true. Nobody I'd rather waste time with than you. Please welcome Randy Jackson.
Hey, Jason. How's it
Hi,
going?
Randy. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
And as I said, this show, we've had so many bands on. It's very hard to find a band that's stayed together. I want to start by asking you, is there a secret that the three of you have stayed together this long?
I think, the first staying together for the first 5, 7 years was probably the hardest part. And then after that, we kind of became family. Uh, I think one thing that kind of has been good is that for the three of us is that politically we're on the same page.
Mhm.
And, I know a lot of bands, fight over a lot of different things, but I think that certainly has helped. And the fact that we're just three people helps too. It's a lot easier to keep three together than four or five.
Sure, maybe you were smart, and maybe with the politics, maybe it makes Thanksgiving dinner a little easier as well.
Yeah, I would think so.
It's you guys have stood the test of time. Maybe that's a cliche, but you've seen music, the industry change so many times. I often say that the bands that are still there, that are surviving, you eventually get the credit that is due because not many guys, not many of your peers are still performing, and you're out there. As I said, there'll be 40 years since the first record. Did you ever think it would last this long?
I mean, no, I can't say I did. 50 years is a long time. I mean, that didn't even was it. I mean, back when I was a kid, and I'm thinking about 2025. I'm thinking about old folks home. I'm not thinking about me being on stage and rock and roll. So it's pretty wild. And but we're still playing. We're all healthy, and Guy, our drummer, who does most of the work, he's playing better than ever. So it's pretty amazing.
It certainly is, and we'll talk about the upcoming dates, and we'll show them in just a bit. I want to go all the way back to 1975 is where the name Zebra comes into play. You guys are from New Orleans, Louisiana. It's an interesting thing because your success comes out of Long Island. How does a band go from Louisiana to Long Island?
Well, we were in New Orleans, and we were doing really well down there. There was a pretty good local rock scene there, and but we were doing about as good as you were going to do down there. We were packing the clubs that were there, and we're playing just about every week. But New Orleans is not a really big city, and 500,000 people. And although we played outside and ventured out a little bit, we really wanted to get a record deal. So we figured we'd either go to Los Angeles or to New York, to get more attention in markets where we had a better chance of a label coming out and seeing us perform. So we knew some people in New York. We had some friends down in New Orleans that had family in New York, and they hooked us up with a club owner up here. We also had done a gig with a band called the Good Rats from here in New York, and they had already been around the country a couple of times, touring with their records, and we were kind of asking them, where would you, which place would you go? And they said, well, we're from there, but there's a great scene going on, in New York right now, and we just don't see that happening in Los Angeles right now. So, we would suggest New York. So that's what we did. We packed up and came to New York.
Yeah, it's and you talk about that New York scene for people who might not know. Tell me about some of the bands that were emerging at that time.
Yeah, I mean, when we got up here, we played, we opened up for Twisted Sister. They were doing this before any record deal that they had. There's a band called Essence that was doing kind of progressive rock. Rat Race Choir was another band on the circuit. Some friends of ours came up from New Orleans and started playing up here too, but more in New Jersey. They were called White Tiger, but there were a lot of bands. I mean, there was a Southern rock scene. Stanton Anderson Band was another one that played, and I think the reason we got a lot of exposure really quick because we were able to open up for a lot of the bands that were already doing really well up here. So
Yeah, and it was New York's a versatile scene because you have the punk rock movement's going to start. The New York Dolls and these kind of bands are playing. Twisted Sister is glam, before people even knew what they were looking at.
yeah.
Like you said, it was a little bit different at the time when you were playing with them. They were sort of wearing pink, right?
Oh yeah, I remember the first time I saw Dee Snider when we were playing with them. He came out of the dressing room with like a pink negligee on, and I never saw him again with it on after that. And evidently, that was correct. He wore it one time for that one show, and it was this pink outfit, not a negligee, but it was pretty wild looking and quite different from the afternoon when he had just walked in with t-shirts and jeans.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you guys were sort of a progressive rock band. I mean, I think that's the term you would say. Of course, you would get compared to every three-piece rock band as if you guys were all hanging out together in Canada or
yeah,
wherever else. But you had something a little different and maybe ahead of your time. And one of the things that I find fascinating is the involvement of radio, because now radio does not mean what it did then. If it wasn't for Long Island Radio, WBAB, maybe we never hear about Zebra.
very possibly. I don't think we would have gotten our record deal without BAB. We had a demo that we had shopped for a couple of years, and nobody was interested. They all said that the material was dated. If you all came out 10 years ago, it'd be great. But WBAB and Bob Buckman, the program director there, just loved the band, and he started putting our material into regular rotation at the station, which just doesn't happen anymore. And we started getting a lot of exposure, got a lot of requests, and that had a lot to do with us getting signed. Just the fact that we had such a great track record on radio already.
Jason Flom, I don't think he was an A&R guy at the time. He went on to be one of the biggest. He saw, at that time, later he signed Skid Row, he signed Katy Perry, Kid Rock, Jewel, Stone Temple
Yeah,
Pilots. But at that time, he was sort of young and starting out with Atlantic, right?
yeah, he was brand new. He hadn't signed anybody. He was, I think, when he went to meet Bob Buckman, that was one of the first times he had been sent to a radio station to do anything. And before that, he had just gone to record stores, putting up posters, and he was like, starting off at the ground level with Atlantic. And he this was his entrance into being an A&R guy. I think because he signed us, that he kind of got pushed into A&R a lot quicker than he would have, normally. But he turned out to be like one of the best in the business. So
Yeah,
good all around.
yeah, he still does good, has his own label and other things. But Randy, I got to have you tell me the story about. So Jason goes to WBAB and he hears one of your songs. He takes the tape with him. And they're pushing you guys, saying this is the big thing. Tell me about what happens.
Well, what happened with Jason was that he went to the station. He's trying to push another Atlantic act to get it played on WBAB, and Bob Buckman, tells him, you guys should be looking at this band, Zebra. They've got like the top 5 requests at the station, and he shows Jason, it's not just top 5 for the local bands, it's top 5 period. So it just turns out like the 6 through 10 were all Atlantic acts. It was like AC/DC and Zeppelin, and Jason's go, wait, this is not right. He says, yeah, this is it. They've got the top 5 songs requested. So Jason, he says, can you get me a tape? And Bob makes him a tape. Jason takes the tape back to Atlantic, and he's able to see Doug Morris, who's the new president of Atlantic at that time. And Doug just happened to know Jason when he grew up a long time. And Jason goes in and tells him about the band, and Doug says, okay, well, I'll give it a listen, So Doug takes the tape, and he's going home, and he lives in Long Island, and he gets in the back of the car, and he's got, back then a little tape player with a radio, and he turns it on, puts in the tape, and the first song on the tape is Who's Behind the Door, which has the, minute and a half guitar intro, acoustic guitar intro. And I think like halfway through it, he just ejected it. Obviously there's no hook at that point. So I'm not signing this band. This is crazy. But the song just happens to be playing on the radio when he ejects the tape. And the radio's tuned into BAB at that point. And so he's a little confused, puts the tape back in, ejects it, realizes, he's hearing it on the radio. So he listens to the song on the radio, listens to, and at the end, the DJ says that's the most requested song at the station for the last, month, Zebra, Who's Behind the Door. So, but I didn't find that out till, a couple of years later, Before that, it was like, oh yeah, listen to the tape, it's great, but that story kind of emerged later, but,
It's radio to the rescue again. Yeah. You get recognized from it, and then it sort of reassures him that, oh, okay, wait a second, maybe I do need to listen to this. It's got to be exciting getting signed to Atlantic, as you've said, Led Zeppelin, and a lot of your incredible peers.
Yeah, Atlantic was like the label at the time for me. Anyway, I remember when it was Capitol when the Beatles came out, but by the time we got to New York, Atlantic Records had all the acts that I was really interested in. So
you said you were going to come from Long Island, come from Louisiana, go to Long Island, get a record deal. You did it. Here's the debut record. 40 years ago, 1983. You guys are celebrating this. I really love the way you guys are handling this, because you have your original lineup, and you're giving people what they want. You're going to play this record in its entirety, start to finish, plus songs from the other records as well. Is this a bit of a ambitious challenge this many years later?
As long as we can keep doing it, I think we will be doing it. Like I said, previously, it's really about Guy. Our drummer, and he is just at 71 years old. He's killing it. It's unbelievable. My voice is held up, so knock on wood, I'm still able to sing the songs in the original keys, and so I don't see us stopping here. We're and people love the first album. We had 8 years to write it. It's actually the fans picked the songs for the first record. It was because up until we recorded it, we had a lot of original songs we would perform in the clubs and stuff, and through the whatever reactions we were getting from the audience, a lot of the record came from their reactions.
Yeah. Are there a lot of leftover demos that maybe didn't make it, or did they come up later?
Yeah, there's stuff that's never been released of songs that some of them we've even forgotten, but there's quite a bit of stuff, and I've been going through a lot of it recently. So hopefully we'll get it all out there.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to. You guys are really kind of coming full circle with everything. Maybe a box set or something that also contains those. There'll be three albums in the what I consider the modern, well, the present day for the first record. There'll be a fourth record later. But so as I said, you see the times changing. The record, there are MTV. There are videos that are playing, but it's the scene keeps changing. At one point, New York becomes hard rock, hair bands, glam type thing is taking off. You see punk come and go. You see hardcore come and go. And Zebra remains true to its roots and does what it does. Did you ever think there's a point when this industry is going to pass us by?
Well, you never know. Things really did change quite a bit. Even after we were off of Atlantic, things kept changing. So, uh, the fact that we're still here now is pretty amazing. The fans are still loyal. The music has lasted. Um, yeah, I mean, things would. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember in the '60s, bands came and went so quick. It was just ridiculous, and most of them never, didn't look at it as a career. They just broke up. They would have a couple of hits on the radio, and that would be the end of it. Uh, but we were in it for the long haul. I think the fact that we were together 10 years before we made our first record kind of sealed the deal for us. We were doing so well in the local club scene that we figured we could do that a pretty long time. But for it to actually be 50 years at this point, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And as we said, things are going to change. Some of the bands that come on the show, and some of them are very famous, but their careers were really 4 or 5 years. If you were in one scene, maybe you lasted 87, 88 to 92, and the grunge scene comes and that had its time. So for you guys, as you said, to sort of stick to the music. You did what you do.
Yeah, we did stick to our guns, and I remember one band in particular that tried to like assimilate with the times, and that was Hall and Oates. And I don't know if you
Mhm.
remember when Hall and Oates tried to go punk. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, it was really really strange, and it was like so different than what they had done before. And they gave that a shot, and then went back to what what they were good at, and that's where the way it should have been. But
Yeah, pop hits. Yeah.
yeah, you know we were comfortable with who we were, you know. Uh, to try to be something else. That's not why I got into music anyway. I wanted to. I liked the music that we were writing, and if you had to do something else or to to be in the music business, something you didn't really care for, it was real. There's a lot of other ways to make money, So
Hmm.
thankfully, we were able to just continue with what we started with. Our
Now, yeah, and so in this course of almost 50 years, obviously you guys have to do other things. You've had a solo career as well. Does everybody just get involved in different industries? How do people? What are you doing in between the Zebra years?
well, we never did stop doing zebra shows. We played every year since the beginning, but we did have different projects. Um, I got signed back to Atlantic to do a solo record that really the Atlantic never even really released. Uh, called China Rain. It was in 1990 that it was finished, and Nirvana had just come out, and I think Atlantic was one of the last labels to embrace that genre, and so they didn't release the China Rain, and a lot of bands got dropped at that point, from the label. So, but it was just a change of times, and Guy, our drummer, he started a case company, flight cases for bands,
Hmm.
and it went. He did that all the time, and he was able to leave and stuff because he owned the company, and he had that company up until Katrina. When Katrina hit New Orleans in 2005, it wiped out the whole thing. So, but that was something different. Felix has played in different bands over the years. Um, and everybody, but Zebra's Zebra. There was never any talk of breaking up or, you know. nothing like that, and as long as the fans were coming out, we were going to keep playing. So fans have really kept it going for us.
For sure. And well, I want to talk about one of your most famous fans. How could I not mention? I said it in the introduction. Johnny Lawrence, the actor William Zabka from Karate Kid and now Cobra Kai. He wears this T-shirt. I have to ask you: are T-shirt sales up now?
Yeah, T-shirt sales are great, and we actually started reprinting that one when we heard that he had worn it.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, we were surprised. Evidently, the story is that he was listening to that particular album, to the No Telling Lies album, when he went to the audition for the movie, originally, and he was getting himself psyched up out in the parking lot by listening to the music, and then went and did the audition and got the gig. So
He says that, yeah, he says that he was playing "Tell Me What You Want" right before he went in, and I think he also said during the making of the movie. It's funny. A friend of mine who lives in Las Vegas, Joe Esposito, he sang the main Karate Kid song, "You're the Best Around," and he's been on the show, a New York guy
uh,
as well. So it's funny, these Cobra Kai parallels. I also work with Stephen Piercy from RATT. RATT was on that
sure.
show. These shows have really helped open young people's eyes. I'm sure you can't believe how young the fans are that are coming to see Zebra.
There's a lot of young fans, and and they come with their grandparents sometimes, and they're not young; they're like in their 20s, and the grandparents are there still rocking, and it's kind of it's interesting that it's cross generations like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the rock and roll in general, it's just amazing that it's really survived intact and touches so many different people. I remember back in the 60s, 70s. If you look back 50 years, you're talking the 1920s, and there were, nobody was really in the 60s and 70s going out to see a band that was
Right.
around in the 20s. I couldn't even name one. You might be hearing the music in a movie or something like that, but you've actually got a whole group of musicians that are still out there performing after all this time. It's crazy.
Yeah, generations mixing. I want to show this. This is William Zapka's mix. I think during the pandemic, they all kind of came up with their own playlists. And
Uh-huh.
Williams was the pump up playlist. I have to read it sideways. But some great stuff: Van Halen, Scorpions, Dio, Def Leppard, Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, The Who, and of course, Whitesnake, and of course, Zebra. Tell Me What You Want on his playlist, which I think also adds a little new interest to people.
Yeah, a lot of people got introduced to us, wanted to know about the T-shirt. There was a lot of chatter about it online, and you know, we're not the most well-known band in the world, but there's we're getting new fans all the time, and that certainly helped.
I say often that Spotify and these services don't pay the artists incredibly well, but they are great for reaching people fast. Someone who's watching this right now can go listen to Zebra the second they're done. I had to get on the bus and go to the Bronx to my local record store and go through the cassettes and then look at the cover and decide if I liked it. And now, in 1 second, if you want to hear Zebra, you can do that. And I think that's a good thing. And then people can also come and see you live.
Yeah, and we love playing live, and we've been doing it a long time, and there's no tricks. You hear what you see, and you're hearing, you know you hear what you see. In other words, we do things pretty much the same way we always have, and you know it's fun. We enjoy it. That's why we got into it.
You're busier than ever. Who would have thought this 40 years later that you'll be touring more and probably hitting markets that you didn't get to hit the first couple times around? I'm showing the dates right now for the rest of this year. So we have November and December this year. I know there's no plans to stop. You're talking about also a documentary, right?
Yeah, we're doing a new DVD that's going to cover a lot of material that we didn't cover on the first DVD that we did. Interviews with some people that weren't on the original one, and a lot of new information. some new music, and it's going to be pretty interesting, I think.
Well, and you have access to all, there's plenty of content because you're out there so much now and having these new experiences. And, not to sound cliche, but there is this brotherhood that the three of you still get to experience these things together. And you don't drive each other crazy, apparently.
No, not to the point of hanging each other, so we're in good shape.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you
we still enjoy it. It's still fun.
You could probably offer like a counseling course for bands on how to keep it going. I
Yeah.
want to make sure that people watching know that they can go to thedoor.com, which is Zebra's official website, and that's where you can get merch and you can find tour dates and read a little bit of history too. Obviously, we didn't get to everything. There's plenty. You can't talk about 50 years in 30 minutes, but I want to make sure that people um, look further into it and check it out. It is fun that you get to discover bands, even if the record came out 40 years ago. When I was younger, my parents grew up. They liked Beatles and Led Zeppelin and the Doors and all these bands, Grateful Dead, before me. And I went and discovered all that music, and I find that that's what's happening now. When I meet younger people who tell me, "Oh, I love Zebra," I say, "How do you even know what that is?" But we've shown that music through the test of time, and these sites also they offer similar music. If you go to Spotify or Pandora and you like certain rock bands, maybe Zebra sounds similar, and then that gets suggested. And so it's crazy, and I'm sure it's a little surprising to you too that how many new people find you.
Yeah. Well, technology. I've always been a kind of a geek myself, so technology has certainly been a part of keeping the band going and keeping the awareness out there. So
That's obvious. You can see because some people technology just takes them away, and then they depend on somebody to explain what's new. You've stayed up on the trends and on how to do and how to market, and you're involved. You guys are involved social media and these things with
yeah,
your audience, and I think that makes part of it even more special for the people who come out. There's all kinds of cool VIP packages. People can meet you at the shows and uh, um, yeah, get a little something from each show as well. What are the plans for 2024?
new record. We're going to do another record. It's been 20 years now since the last one,
Mhm.
and and we're still here, so it's time for another record. And
Zebra 5, yeah,
yeah, Zebra 5, if we call it that,
right.
maybe 5.9.
Working title, yeah.
Yeah, working title Zebra 5. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's going to have some pretty cool stuff on it. We got a little blues on it, that I think is going to be really kind of catch people going, "Wow, what's going on there?" Yeah, we haven't done really a quote unquote. The closest to a blues song we ever did was a song called "Waiting to Die." On the fourth record, but it's not like a standard kind of blues thing. When you hear this next song, the song on the new record, it's cool, and it fits into the blues category, but it's going to be different. Different. Chord, because that's the one thing about the blues. I love the songs that don't have the a regular chord progression that do a little twist in the middle.
Mhm.
And this one has it. So
You write consistently, right?
I try to keep doing it. Yeah. And if I get an idea, it's so easy now. You can just record it with your phone. So you got no excuses. Well, I didn't have the tape recorder. No, it's a lot easier now.
Yeah, for sure.
Just imagine what it would have been like to have all this technology back when we were in our 20s. But we have it now, and it's good.
You must think when you're on the road, and you can just go on your phone and figure out where you're going, GPS. The days when you had to get the atlas guide or unfold the maps or ask somebody where we are.
Yeah, you just become so spoiled with the time you are saving that when you really stop and think about it, you had to really work for for every mile you did, back in the day. It was crazy, and you had to pay attention. But the street signs are gone now too. A lot of these cities don't even put up street signs anymore, or half of them are missing. you
Mhm.
know, especially you're out in the boondocks, and so it'd be tough. But yeah, asking for directions and no cell phones. I mean,
Yeah, you had to call your family, yeah, on
I don't know
payphones.
how we did it. Honestly, it's when I think back about it, it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. We might not have flying cars yet, but technology has certainly come a long way in the last
Yeah, it
50 years. Yeah,
kind of took another path than the Jetsons, but it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Randy, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And again, thedoor.com. If you check the dates, November, December, go see Zebra. I tell people all the time, these bands, they come a lot further to see you than you're coming to see them. There's a lot of traveling involved. You wouldn't believe 40 years ago that you'd still get to see Zebra with all original members. So go out, see the show, support music, get ready for new music, and keep up to date with all the things. Thank you so much, Randy.
Thanks, Jason. Good to be here.
And, you'll come back when there's a new record. We'll come back. We'll talk some more.
There we go. I'll be back.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for watching.